Welcome back to the Writer's Haven. I am your host, Helena, and we have a great show in store for you today. I'm very excited about our next guest. She has written 4 books, one of which was a bestseller, and after working a number of years in television, she decided to venture into filmmaking. What came out of that was truly extraordinary. Her debut film, Zoo Volker Show, was a national and international success. It garnered 7 national and 3 international awards on the film festival circuit and placed her on a trajectory towards continued success as a writer and filmmaker. Zoo is a short film that takes place in 1958 Belgium about a day in the life of an African girl on display in a human zoo. Here's a clip.
Fraus und Fräuleins, Messieurs et Mademoiselles, les enfants, welcome! In a few minutes, you are going to experience a truly unforgettable experience. So, gather around, come in close.
Mama, we're gonna miss it. My birthday will be ruined.
Welcome to the show, Monda. I am excited about you being here, and I am thrilled about your film, Zoo. We just saw a clip from it. First question.
Yes.
Why was this film so important to you to show, to produce, to make sure it got out there in mainstream?
I love history. I love Black history. And there's just so much that we don't know and that we haven't been taught in school as part of our curriculum. And when I saw the picture of the little African girl, I had a knee-jerk reaction, and I was really impacted. Number one, because I had no idea that there were human zoos, and number two, that it was 1958. I mean, here in the States, I thought about, we were in the middle of a major civil rights movement. My parents were 11 years old, and yet there were still people being displayed like animals in human zoos across the world. I mean, we had them here in the US, but I actually saw a scroll unfurl in my mind, like the old scroll paper that had the script on it. I didn't know anything about script writing. I write books, but this was something that I do think, you know, by the grace of God, that I was able to do this, and everything was so clear. I knew what I wanted from the moment I saw that picture, and I think it has, it's done way better than I can imagine, and I really think it's because of the subject matter. We know a lot about the Holocaust and the horrors of Holocaust and the horrors of the slavery, but something like human zoos is so obscure. I believe that is what people continue to gravitate towards. And it is a film with a message of hope, but it does educate you.
Yeah, absolutely. This film has received such national and international acclaim and exposure. Why do you think it was so embraced on the international scene?
Well, I can tell you what I think, but I'd rather give you an example.
Okay.
I had a producer reach out to me through LinkedIn and said that she'd heard of Zoo Volker Show, and her husband is a professor at a university in Germany, and he wanted to show the film to his students. And I believe it was about social change or culture. I'm not sure of the subject matter. But after he showed the film to his students, many of them expressed surprise that this had happened in the not so distant past. And I was surprised because I'm thinking, okay, you're in Europe and human zoos were all the rage in Europe. We had them here in the United States as well, but in Europe, they really, you know, France, Germany, Belgium. And so it made me realize that although this was a history, this is not a history that has been told. And I believe that, and again, that people are gravitating towards it because it's a human story overall that really, digs into humanity and, good versus evil and light versus darkness. It all comes together in 11 minutes, told through the eyes of two little girls.
The cinematography in that film was outstanding, and you have to give me the name of the DP after the show. But I think that the way that you visualized it as the writer, as the director, as the producer, and the way that it came off cinematically, the synergy between that was just completely awesome. Just more than I would expect from a new rising filmmaker. Let's talk about that a little bit. Are there any directors or filmmakers that inspire you? How were you able to capture in your first film those types of nuances?
Well, I think first and foremost, I just want to say that in this business, from a filmmaking, it takes a village, and you really have to find the right team with the right synergy. And because, I'm like, I don't know much about this, I just know what I want. I was very clear about what I wanted, but in terms of how to execute it, I wouldn't be able to really articulate it because I don't know terms. I didn't go to directing school, but what I knew was in my heart. And my DP and my director of photography and I have a very good relationship, and I probably drove him nuts. I mean, from the time you write the script, if you write the script, what's in your head and what comes out on paper are two different things. Then when you shoot it, what you shoot versus what's on the paper are two different things. And then when you edit it, it becomes yet something else. And so, I mean, there were times when I cried my heart out, like, this is not what I wanted, I can't believe this. But it does all come together in the end. And primarily, I had someone right next to me, and I had a very good producer as well. They've both been in the business for over 25 years that knew how to execute. So I wasn't really worried about that part. I'm inspired by filmmakers who know how to tell a story, who know how to bring you in, and the importance of imagery. When I made the film, I said, if this had no dialogue at all, when someone watches it, how would they respond to it? Would they get it? And it's in black and white, as you know, and I am inspired, by Ava DuVernay as a director, a woman black director, but Steven Spielberg, and directors, men and women, who they may not have gotten Oscars. To me, that's not the definition of the best filmmaker ever, but those who tell stories that have a lot of heart.
I saw a little bit of Spielberg, the scene in his film Schindler's List with the red jacket, the yellow ribbon.
That was,
but the gravity of that scene, what was being portrayed, and then the yellow ribbon, and just the juxtaposition of the two was just, it was just wonderful to see.
That was definitely an influence.
Yeah.
And I chose to, people have asked, why did you do the film in black and white? And I chose to do that because we're talking about an independent project that is a period piece. And generally when you put, a period piece in indie, there's, it's going to cost money, but you have to ask yourself, how much money do I have? So part of the challenge was to recreate what 1958 may have looked like. I mean, we shot it in my backyard, right? And so, and using my house as a set. So, the black and white was just a part of my way of having the viewers transport to 1958. Even if you don't know what it was like, I wanted there to be a certain feeling that one gets when they take a look at the short films.
Okay, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the challenges with the funding and all that in a second, but how long did it take to make the film, from conception to actual reel?
You know what, V? It didn't take that long at all, relatively speaking. I've heard stories of how it takes years to make something, but when I first saw the picture of the little girl in the human zoo, it was March, and I knew immediately that it was going to be a short film, and I knew I didn't know anything about writing a script, excuse me, so I made a point to go to a screenwriting retreat and I went to a retreat that did more than just teach you structure. As my teacher says, you can teach a monkey structure. But I went to a retreat that focused on the holistic aspect of script writing. You know, hypnosis for script writers, ways to kind of dig deep into your subconscious and your psyche so that you can write from here as opposed to here, here and here. And you know, they spoke to the fact that the subconscious doesn't know the difference between reality and dreaming. So if you can tap into that subconscious and bring it to like on paper, then your film already has an honesty and a truth to it, because most of the characters that we write are just internal representations of who we are.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
So I went to the screenwriting retreat in June or July, and I wrote the script, and then I just polished it in the next couple of months. And we shot for 2 days, in October 18th and 19th in 2014. And so from March till October, and then we took 3 months to edit, and then January we started sending it out on the film circuit.
Wow, that is amazing, absolutely amazing. Let's now talk about the challenges of funding and being an independent filmmaker. You know, Haile
How real you want me to get? Political answer or?
Well, whatever answer you feel most comfortable with, and one that will help our dream catchers who are also looking to do what you're doing. You know, like Haile Gerima calls it guerrilla filmmaking.
Okay, funding was like the bane of my existence for a few months. I didn't want to ask anyone for money per se because I figured that that might take a while, and I'd already had a project previously where I did a crowdfunding campaign, and I just didn't want to be looked at as a filmmaker that always has hat in hand, you know. So I actually, I started saving really aggressively every paycheck from my day job at the time, and not that I would suggest this for anyone else, but some people didn't get paid. So for, you know, when you write a script.
They did it for the love of the project and for you.
For the love of the flow. So you know, understanding that every page is roughly $1,000, and I had 11 pages, so I estimated that I would spend at a minimum $11,000 for the shoot itself. But fortunately, my producer Sabrina Gray was a line producer, had worked in Hollywood for over 25 years, and she was able to kind of work magic around the numbers and ask for favors from people. I mean, my mother did craft services.
Very nice.
And
family affair.
that's right. I had a cousin take the bus up from Georgia to make her pies, because I feel like a fed crew is a happy crew.
Yes, indeed.
And I asked for favors from some of the local businesses through Silver Diner and a restaurant called Sisters Sandwiches, and they were able to provide a major discount for food, because we wanted to feed people every 6 hours. Even though we weren't a union film, we still wanted the appearance of doing things right. So, and then, you know, you got to think about the equipment, and you got to think about the lighting, and so the crew primarily, they spent 2 days to give me a part of their life, and I'm very thankful for it, without much of anything but good meals. But, you know, we were responsible. We did have insurance under the production company, and also so that the equipment, if anything happened to the equipment, it would be taken care of. So I paid for it. It's a self-financed venture. And the months afterward, to get the editing done and to start submitting to film festival circuit, anything I continued to save and put towards a project. But it's no small task. But again, it's the village that helps lift you.
Right. Now, to your point about the film festival circuit.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit more about how you engaged in that.
Well, there are, and I'm sure you know, there are a gazillion film festivals out there. But one of the things that I learned is that each film festival has a different aesthetic, and that you can build relationships with people who curate festivals. And once the word gets out about your product, in this case of the film, other people and organizations start calling you. And so the first year, I just, my producer and I just trolled the internet. We signed up with Without a Box and Film Freeway. And they have a description of all the films that are in the world, right? Ever. And so, and some festivals are independent, so you have to go to their website. But I looked for descriptions of festivals that fit the description or the sentiment of Zoo Voca Show. Like would they, women's festivals and history festivals, and some of it was almost like throwing spaghetti against a wall. And of course we wanted to submit to the big ones, like TIFF, LA Film Festival, Sundance, but it's like being a professional athlete. Good luck with you. And a lot of those festivals want it to be a premiere. So TIFF is Toronto, by the way, for those who may not be familiar. So what we found is that the smaller festivals, smaller, more intimate festivals, were very receptive to the idea. And with the timing, if people are interested in entering festivals, timing is a big deal. So an 11-minute film is easy to program, as opposed to a short film short films can go up to 40 minutes. But when it's longer, programmers have a tendency to look the other way because they have to squeeze so many films within a certain time frame. But as a result, I've always wanted to travel and internationally, and as a result of the film it's showed in Jakarta, and it won an award in Jakarta, Indonesia. I wasn't able to go to that. It's been a part of a museum exhibit in Italy, and the most exciting place internationally I've been is Marbella, Spain. A couple of filmmakers decided to create a festival for filmmakers, and it was its first year, and they had several awards, and the jury were people who judged, kind of like for our Oscars, they call them the Goya. So the jury was the representation came from the Goya Awards. So we won Best Script Award there and a Best Script trophy, and that was just one of the happiest times of my life, to see something that we worked so hard for, to get that kind of recognition outside of the United States. And inside the States, we screened all over the place: Atlanta, LA. I can't, now it's behind me. It's like, South Carolina, North Carolina, and it has been received very well. I mean, it's not a film that everyone is going to love, but it's okay because the message is for hashtag Let's All Be Human, and hopefully you'll be uplifted by it. Yeah.
Okay. Now, is there anything that you would have done differently, having gone through the process? And Red Clay Dirt is another film that you're working on that's going to come out, and maybe there's some lessons learned. Talk to us about that.
Always lesson learned. I think that there are a few things, and as a first-time director, too, I realize that primarily it is your position is that of a problem solver. Things are going to happen. Things are going to be out of your control, and you have to make very quick decisions on the spot that not only impact you, but impact your village. And for us, one of the challenges with shooting Zoo Voca Show was daylight. We had several exterior shots that we wanted to shoot, and we simply ran out of time. The audio person, one morning we didn't have, the audio person came late. The second morning, the grip who owned the truck with all the equipment was like 3 hours late. So, and we were just burning daylight. So we had to problem solve and figure out ways to show daylight with interior shots, even though it was evening. And so I think that may have impacted us a little bit, and we were not able to get all of the shots we wanted. But when it's all said and done, that's just something that we know. It's not as if the public could look and say, oh well, they ran out of daylight. But there's still something that you have to understand. And time is money, and if you're burning daylight, and you're not getting things done. The little money that I raise, it would just be a waste. So that's the weather is a big deal. I also think it's important for the crew that you're working with to really understand your vision and to understand what you're trying to execute. Because if you're going left and they're going right, and you have to take time to stop and talk about why you should all go left, then you're also wasting time. And time is a big deal, in the movie business, even independent. And I was fortunate, even with the casting. I went to the gym and cast. I cast from Starbucks. A friend of mine who has a casting company, Kimberly Skirm, She opened up her files to me for non-union actors and said, come take a look. But a lot of those people were just way too pretty. I wanted regular folks that looked like me and folks that I thought would represent well at a 1958 World's Fair in Belgium. And so, you know, there are lessons learned, and you know, with regard to budget, with regard to crew, and you know, it's like life. You know, we always have to be learning, and I think once we stop learning, then we stop living.
Hey, that's some great advice for our dream catchers. Let's just go a little further with red clay dirt. Okay. We actually have a clip of that. Let's go ahead and show our dream catchers that clip, and then we'll come back.
The moment I stepped off the train and my feet touched the pavement, memories rushed in like water against a broken levee. The good, God's good, earth and nature good. The bad, nightmarish monsters under the bed bad, and the disruptive, disrespectful, unforgettable ugly. Which no matter how far I push it down, always comes bubbling back to the surface. In many ways, what was once a bustling, thriving town is now empty, with lots of broken parts and pieces with no value. Kinda like me.
Monda, so
Yes.
tell me, what was the genesis of the Red Clay Dirt film? Why was it important for you to make that film?
I'm all jumping over you. I got excited. Well, Red Clay Dirt is adapted from a book of short stories that I wrote called Red Clay Dirt and Mountains. And with that book, I pay homage to my family. My mother's from Dawson, Georgia. You might see with that rich red clay that can't be replicated. And my father's from Beckley, West Virginia. And you know, I've come from a family of coal miners on my father's side. And primarily, the book is just, it takes a look at the resilience of the human spirit over adversity. And we all have these fabulous stories in our families. And I believe wholeheartedly that those stories have to be told, preserved, and whether it's, you know, whether you write it on a napkin, or whether you put it in a book, or whether you make it a film. And it was important for me to embrace that part of myself, and for others as well, to set the stage to tell other stories as well. So Red Clay Dirt, primarily in a nutshell, is about a broken northern woman who travels south to bury her great-grandmother. She's a prodigal daughter. She hasn't been home in 20 years, and she trips over a tree root. And she is transported to 1939, where she embodies the spirit of her great aunt. And she experiences something with the Ku Klux Klan. And I don't want to give it away, but when she comes back to reality, she realizes that she has to understand her past and understand where she's come from and embrace that in order to heal and move forward. And thusly she's made whole. When there are certain parts of yourself that you deny and that you aren't honest with, it can impact you and impact the way you view the world and impact the way the world views you. So it's definitely a journey. This young woman's journey is very interesting. I'm excited. We have Irma P. Hall that has signed on to do the contract. You remember Mama? If 5 fingers are like a mighty fist. But I'm really excited about this. Is my it will be a feature, a full-length feature film, and I was kicking and screaming in order to write it. I just wanted to do another short, but the story is too big for a short. I understand it, and I have some really good producers who say at least they'll raise some money for me this time, as opposed to me trying to do it on my own. But I have done a fundraising campaign through a nonprofit organization in order to create the trailer and to be able to pay a line producer to get a sense of what the budget will be like. Okay. But I'm excited about it.
Well, I'm excited. Just the little bit that we've seen today in the full-length trailer, which we weren't able to show, in our short period of time here. But where can people go who are interested in donating or funding this film?
So if you want more information, you can follow us on Instagram under Red Clay Dirt Film. We're on Twitter, Red Clay Dirt Film. We're on Facebook, Red Clay Dirt Film. If you feel so inclined to make a tax-deductible contribution, the links are in the bio for you. So I can't say how excited I am about this, V, and hopefully you'll be a part of the project.
I would love to, especially after that invitation.
You're going to come down to Dawson, Georgia. It's very remote.
I'm sure that there will not be a problem with that at all.
Excellent.
I'll even take on an accent.
I'll put you behind the camera.
Okay.
But it's funny that we talked about Highly Dreamer a little earlier.
Yeah.
Because Sankofa is the bookstore run by his wife. Is the place where I had the book signing for Red Clay Dirt a few years ago, and I mean, just the symbolism of it all. The Sankofa bird, I fully believe, you know, he's got his beak one way and his feet another way, but his beak is looking towards the past, and his feet are going towards the future. And that is, to me, the ultimate of how to become fully whole human beings. Know your past if you can. Talk to your elders. They have great stories to tell. We have great stories to tell, and if we don't tell them, we will die.
Yeah,
so
die with us.
you know, and the theme of everything is that DNA is irrefutable and legacy is imminent, and we owe it to ourselves to be as full and rich spiritually and understanding our history and who we are to ourselves and to the world.
Absolutely, and you're such a great storyteller, and I thank you again for being on our show. You will definitely be back without a question.
Okay, I'm happy to.
Dreamcatchers, I hope you enjoyed this segment of our show, the incomparable Monda Webb, who has something for me.
I know, I came bearing gifts, and I completely forgot.
Okay.
But I would like to share with you this T-shirt.
Okay.
Which is
point to the camera
oh,
so
okay. Hi, people. So this T-shirt is created by a friend of mine. His T-shirt company is called Nyla Elise.
Okay.
And all of his T-shirts have socially conscious messages. So Film is My Ammo is mine. I love it. I wear it everywhere. And
they're telling me we need to wrap.
Oh, okay.
Thank you very much for the T-shirt.
This is for you.
Thank you, my love. I really appreciate it.
You can wear it
and thank you, Dreamcatchers. And I hope you enjoyed this segment. Catch fire on purpose until we see each other next time.
Did you know dragging chains can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfire.